Hi, my name is Dee. In this video, you'll learn how to import setup data from a configuration package. You need the Application Implementation Consultant role to perform this activity. Before you can import, you must first export setup data from an implementation project to create a configuration package, as described in the Export Setup Data to a Configuration Package video. To start, go to Setup and Maintenance. Open the Task panel and then select Manage Configuration Package. First, upload the configuration package file that you created by exporting setup data from an implementation project. Click Choose File and select the appropriate configuration package file from the location where you downloaded and saved the exported file. Before you start to upload, you want to verify that you've chosen the correct configuration package file. To do so, click Get Details. By reviewing information in the Configuration Package Details and the Implementation Project Details sections, you know that you've selected the correct file. If the file is not the correct one, you can update and select a different configuration package file. Since you don't need to change to a different file, submit the upload process. If you previously uploaded a configuration package with this name, confirm that you want to replace it. Then, click to dismiss the replacement information. Once the upload process is submitted, the configuration package is listed in the search results table. The related processes for the highlighted configuration package is displayed in the Export and Import Processes table. The upload process you submitted completed successfully and is ready for import. Select the row that shows the upload process and then import setup data. A process name is assigned by default, but you can change the name to something more meaningful to make it easier to identify later. By default, the import process pauses each time it encounters an error so that you can take the corrective actions before import continues. If you want, you can allow the import process to continue without pausing. In that case, you have to assume the risk that if import of any prerequisite data failed due to error, additional dependent setup data might not be imported correctly. Keep the default setting and move to the next step. Some of the setup data might not be imported automatically and might require you to create or load it manually. Filter the list of setup objects by manual data loading type to find if any such setup objects are part of your configuration package that you're preparing to import. There are 4 setup objects for which data will not be imported automatically. You'll have to enter those objects manually. Of the 4, only Reference Data Set User Data Access has a check mark in the Pause column. That means the import process will pause while running and you have to enter this data manually before you can resume the import process. For the other 3, because the pause column does not show a check mark, you can enter their data before or after the import process starts or completes. Move to the next step. By default, the import process runs as soon as you submit it. However, you could choose to schedule it for a later time. For now, keep the default option and submit the process. If any of the setup data that must be entered manually also has to be entered before the import process starts, a warning message is displayed. In this case, you need to enter setup data for Manage Employees and Contingent Workers for Project Resource Management before you can submit the import process. If you've already created that data in this environment, choose Yes to submit. If not, then choose No and load the requested data. Once submitted, the import process is listed in the Export and Import Processes table when you select the corresponding configuration package from the search results table above. Monitor the status of the import process until it completes. Refresh to get the latest status of the process. The import process pauses, and the status shows User Action Required when it encounters a setup object that requires manual data entry while the process is running. Drill down on the status. Filter the Object Details table by User Action Required status to find the appropriate setup object. Now go to the appropriate task to enter the setup data manually. After you've completed your data entry, which is not shown here, return to the Export and Import Process results, and select Resume to resume the import process. Now click Submit to restart the import process. Because the process paused for manual data entry, you're warned for confirmation that you have completed the manual task. Continue to monitor until the process completes. Drill down to the details to verify that all setup data was imported successfully. Check to see if any additional setup data needs to be loaded manually, and if required, load it. Now your setup has successfully migrated to this new environment, so the environment is now ready for use. Thank you for watching.